Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Siegfried and thanks again for coming to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to have a continued discussion relative to, the other day I was talking about flower power, and we're going to get to that in a minute because what I'm talking about today is another issue that's come up with this COVID. As you see, I got a COVID-19 haircut, I got a COVID-19 mask, and we got COVID this and COVID that, and now we have other situations that are coming up all the time. And one of the big ones is that it's in the newspapers is anxiety fatigue, because people are suffering with the fact that there's just a lot of anxiety, not knowing what's going on, suffering from the rules and regulations. And I'm going to explain to you how you can get over a lot of this anxiety fatigue, which causes. We know that when you're under undue stress, it causes all kinds of problems with your immune system. So, for example, there's positive stress where you can go out and take a walk, ride your bicycle, swim, hike, fish, hunt, whatever. And then there's negative stress, which is what we're getting a lot of right now. And the negative stress increases what's called the cortisol level in your adrenal glands, which affects your adrenal glands, it affects your immune system, it affects your heart, it affects your immune system, it affects everything. So when you're under a lot of stress, it's not good. Basically, it's not good. And there's positive stress and negative stress. We want to always be working on the positive stress. But first, I want to explain to you what we're told is this anxiety fatigue. I heard it talked the other day by a psychiatrist. I mean, like I said, it's in the press, it's on the radio, and he was saying that anxiety fatigue it's basically this. It's kind of a new term, actually. Anxiety fatigue means, well, anxiety means that, let's say you're here and you want to be there. You're doing this, but you want to be doing that. So you're not really in the moment, you're just kind of in between. And what that does, that just wears on you. It rips off a lot of your B vitamins. It rips off a lot of the vitamin C in your body. It makes your adrenals tired. It taxes your cardiovascular system, taxes your nervous system, and it taxes your immune system. So the idea is, what can you do to relieve it? But one of the things that I want to focus on today is how can you, what can you do to build yourself up all the time relative to negative stress, even positive stress. Even if you're an athlete and you work out, you got positive stress and there's negative stress and maybe you work out too much. But the point is, I want to talk to you how you can build yourself up all the time. In this situation that we have now, you know, it might take a while to get yourself built back up, but in time, you will be able to build yourself back up. I can tell you this very definitively based on the research that's been done relative to vitamin B, which is the biggest one that you're deficient in if you're tired all the time, and then the other thing is relative to the foods. So, first of all, fatigue, historically, the vitamin, when you're fatigued all the time, your body can't get rid of a lot of waste products. So, and the reason that occurs is, one of the biggest reasons is because of a vitamin B deficiency. Now, there was a lot of research done, and I'll explain to you how this fatigue thing comes along and how it affects your nervous system. Years ago, and you've heard me talk about the book, The Vitamins in Medicine. Years ago, there was research done by the Japanese Navy where they found that the Navy people on the ship were extremely tired. They got to the point where they had a hard time doing their duties. And of course, the chief medical officer found that we got to do something about this. So what he did, this was back in the early 1900s, he went and looked at the diet of the naval, the military guys on the ship, and found out that the diet that they had, they were eating a lot of what was called polished rice, which is a staple in that environment. Other cultures, the staple might be wheat, oats, rye, barley, millet, whatever. But in that case, they were eating an awful lot of polished rice, and polished rice is the key. So what he did, he noticed that these officers, everybody on the ship was having a lot of problems. So he said, okay, how are we going to solve this? And the term that they gave to this condition was beriberi, which is a vitamin B1 deficiency. What does that mean? Beriberi in Japanese means I cannot, I cannot. If you feel yourself waking up in the morning and it's like, ugh, I'm exhausted. At night, you're exhausted more than you would expect to be. You're just not recovering from the stress and strain of the day the way you should if you have proper reserves. That's a form of beriberi, which means I cannot, I cannot. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I cannot bury exhaustion or extreme fatigue or a lot of anxiety, because it does affect the nervous system as well. So this psychic energy that we're being exposed to now all the time, and the fact that we maybe can't be exercising and doing our regular activities the way we should be or would like to, that puts stress on the nervous system. That means the nervous system can't process a lot of the waste material in the body, and the adrenal glands go south, and you cannot. So where did that come from? That was how the doctor worked his way backwards. It came from the industrialization of the milling process of the rice. And that was a very common problem in the Asian and the East Indies areas back in the turn of the century, because they started with the beginning of the industrialization of a lot of the industrialization of many processes. Some of them went into agriculture. So they took the grain and they industrialized it. And what happened was they steam milled it. What happened was they separated the germ from the whole grain. So instead of having, let's say, brown rice with the whole grain, they had the white rice, which was just starch, and what are referred to as empty calories. Now, the importance of the covering of the rice, or the covering of any grain, is that it has a lot of incredible nutrients that are essential for your body. The biggest one that they lose, that's lost when you take the germ off the wheat, is wheat. I'm going to say wheat, but also in the rice it's the vitamin B, and it's also wheat germ oil. In the wheat it's the wheat germ, and then that causes deficiency of vitamin C, and a deficiency in the adrenal glands. So with the rice, it causes the vitamin B deficiency, and in the wheat problem, it causes the vitamin B deficiency in addition to the vitamin E deficiency. So this doctor found that when they went back to stone grinding the grain, and made sure that they had more fresh fruits, more fresh vegetables, more fish, things like that, in addition to the rice that they would eat at every meal, in about 9 months everybody came around. So that's significant also, in the sense that if you have these conditions, it takes time to change the situation so you can build yourself back up. And then once you build yourself back up, you stick to a certain diet of these whole grains, taken care of, which have all the minerals and vitamins that are lacking when you polish the grain, which means you take the germ off of it, and you have a whole different ballgame. Now, that also translates to us today because of all the anxiety, fatigue that we have in our situation, because that same flour, the wheat flour, the rye flour, let's just take wheat because that's the one that most people, it doesn't matter. Wheat, rye, oats, barley, millet. A lot of people that are baking are using flour where the covering of the grain has been taken away. It's degerminated, which means right away it's deficient in, at the very least, vitamin B, and also in vitamin B and vitamin E. That affects the cardiovascular system, that affects the nervous system, that affects your adrenal glands, that affects your response to stress. So what happens in the commercialization or the industrialization of the grains? I've talked about this before, when you mill a grain right away, it's going to be fresh, even if it's got the whole grain on it. And what happens is, for a while, the bugs will go after it. So they methylbromate it, which is a nervous system toxin, which is obviously, you get that when you eat those flours that are treated commercially, that are milled commercially, that are not stone ground, and have been dusted with the methylbromide. Now, back in the early days of that situation with us in this country, Wonder Bread, you probably heard of Wonder Bread. What happened was they found all these problems and deficiencies going on. They found out the same thing that the Japanese found out. So what they did, they started calling Wonder Bread, they made the term Wonder Bread, which they put synthetic vitamins back into it. Still got the same problem because the germ isn't there. It's just synthetic vitamins, which is an oxymoron because they're not vitamins, they're chemicals. And they put it back in there and said, here, we got 10 different things in here. It was either 8 or 10 different ways to build strong bodies. That was not accurate from a physiological standpoint. From a marketing standpoint, it was great, but it didn't do anything physiologically. In fact, the synthetic B vitamins, or the lack of the B vitamins in the whole grains, causes sterility and infertility and all kinds of other problems. So these two things are essential foods for sterility, infertility, etc. But we're talking about anxiety and fatigue today. So what can you do to alleviate this situation or start going in another direction? I've talked about the Vitamix before. I've talked about this before. You can do your own homemade flour power, so to speak. You get the whole grain. Try to find certified whole grains. I've talked about Bob's Mill here in Oregon, but you can check around because there's other places where you might be able to get certified whole grain product, the certified whole grain, and you can take it and put it in your freezer, put it in your fridge. And then I've talked about how you can make a cereal. You bring the water almost to a boil. You put a cup of the grain, let's say wheat in there, the certified organic wheat. Take it off the fire, or turn the stove down, stir it up a little bit, put the lid on, let it puff overnight. And in the morning you warm it up and you put butter from Kerry's Gold Butter, which is loaded with good vitamin E. It's about the best you can get, unless you get Amos Miller's Organic Farm Butter. They have that. They're back in Pennsylvania, but it's called Amos Miller Organic Farm. Kerry's Gold is not pasteurized, but it's grass-fed, grass-finished, and it's really quite a good one. Put a big slab of butter on that. You warm the cereal up, big slab of butter, lots of raisins, local nuts like hazelnuts, walnuts, almonds. Again, good nuts. The company called Now is a good company. And put some White Mountain yogurt on it. You got a fantastic breakfast. Cheap, as nourishing as you're going to get, and it's building all the time. So that's the way you can get out of that. It's going to take time because it takes time to get rid of your reserves, and then it takes time to build them back up, and then you can tell from a purely nutritional standpoint that what you're taking, what you're eating, is building you up, and you just feel stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's one way that you can work on anxiety and fatigue, because if your nervous system is strong, in other words, you're not weakening it with synthetic B vitamins or grain that's been polished, then you're going to have both of these, and these two systems with the adrenals and the vitamin C deficiency is going to be minimal because you've got this plus all the other factors in the germ. So what can you do? Again, the solution is basically to eat the whole grain, oats, rye, barley. Get the whole grain, you can warm it up, puff it, put it on the fire, take it off. Next morning you've got some puff, you just warm it up. Make the cereal like I said. Now, if you're in a situation where you can't do that, you still try to find stone ground wheat and or any other grain, and try to make sure that whether it's wheat or rice or barley or oats, that it hasn't been methyl bromated, for one, and number two, no synthetic chemicals added to it. You're going to have to ask the place where you get it. They might look at you funny a little bit, but hey, it's your body, you're the consumer, you're trying to take care of yourself. You're trying to build yourself up. So you have to ask, but it is available, and you can look online. You might take a little research, but you can find these things because there's a demand. The demand for this certified organic food is increasing 20 to 30% a year. That's why there's a lot of corporations getting into it. So, or even locally, you check around locally for the grains, or you can check on the internet. So, but Bob's Mill locally is pretty good. So another thing is, if you can't make your own grains, then like I said, you get the stone ground. If you can't make your own bread with, let's say, the Vitamix or the Lee Mill with the whole grains, which you can ground it, make your flour, or make what's it called, in the morning, you know, the pureed stuff, cream of wheat, cream of any of the grains. You can make that, boom, just like that, and put it in and make it at home real fast. We used to do it all the time with my kids. What you can do is you can buy Ezekiel bread, which is a very good one, certified organic. They've been around for a long time. Ezekiel, Ezekiel. And another, if you like crackers, there's crackers called Akmek, AK-MAK. And there's other crackers, but you want to make sure that it's certified organic wheat or grain. If you can't get the certified organic stuff, you get the next best thing. You always shoot for the top, certified organic, and then if you can't get that, you get organic. If you can get the whole grain and you can make it at home, or even the whole grain that's been stone ground, you get that. If you can start there and work your way down, you're going to find as time goes on that your energy level will increase because you're putting super nutrition into your body every day, if you like cereal, like I said. Now, the other thing is, if you're not able to get those things where you are, you can always call me. You can always get these supplements. It's called Nutriplex, Nutriplex Nutriplex formulas, bee food and the wheat germ oil. Those two things are the your first line of defense if you're not getting the whole grain certified organic flour. So I hope that helps, because it's a very significant situation that we have relative to the fatigue and the anxiety that's going on. People are spending a lot of time in therapy, which is understandable, because you get stressed out, bummed out, and everything else, and you just feel you get depressed. But at the same time, when you're building yourself up, then this psychic stress doesn't affect you as much. If you're exercising, if you have the energy, that builds you up. If you're getting your proper rest, if you're able to get your sleep, that builds you up. So I'm thinking in terms of building all the time. And you should be too, because it's something you can do at home, and you'll notice as time goes on that you will get stronger and stronger. I really hope that this is helpful for you. You're welcome to give me a call sometime, 503-472-6550. And you can also contact me online, dunchiropracticclinic@gmail.com. I do nutrition consultations all the time with people from all over the country. Basically what I do is I evaluate the diet, I evaluate the supplements, I make sure that you're taking whole food concentrates, which is what these are. I make dietary recommendations, certain company foods that you're consuming, make those recommendations, and give you a blueprint to follow at home to build yourself up. That's the name of the game. Build yourself up, reduce your anxiety, and increase your strength so that you're not as fatigued and you can enjoy your life as best you possibly can. Thanks for watching.